So we'll be discussing introductory lessons on leadership and career development. So I would request you to be ready for the speed. This is just for formality. You already met me, you know my name. And then I've been practicing for 36 years. So my hospital is GAN Rovet Animal Hospital. It's 36 years old. In actual fact, just like Femi introduced you the other time, or to you the other time, is about the oldest surviving private veterinary practice center in Nigeria now. And then I've been a mentor to several mentees. I have about 5 of my mentees who are professors, and quite a number, of course, very many of them who are academic as PhD holders, and a lot more who are into private practice on their own, doing much better than us. And we are very, I'm very proud of them. Are you all hearing me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I want to be sure my voice is right. And I'm also a realist. That is, I don't preach what I do not practice. And I don't also expect too much beyond what whoever I'm interacting with is supposed to know. I'm a past president of the Nigerian Veterinary Medical Association. I'm still vice president of African Veterinary Association, even now, since 2014. Of course, we were told the other day that I'm a past counselor for Africa at World Veterinary Association, the first Nigerian veterinarian to finish to you the other day, which is just introductory now. These are your pictures. I'm very proud of these pictures. Can you see yourselves? I can't hear your voices. Can you see yourself here? So now let's go on. I request you to be very attentive. Remember, Femi told you that you're going to have exams. Even though I don't like exams, but we have to find a way to assess you. So be attentive, because the answers to the questions that will be asked on this course will be given in this lecture, which I'm going to present, which I'm presenting now, and also in the 2 other contacts I will have with you. So take your notes, write down as best as you can. Where you need a supporting document, don't feel to ask. So why do we have to teach leadership to veterinary interns like you? Again, let me congratulate you for having a very special role in the history of this profession now, because like I said the other time, you are the first to have this opportunity, and every other future ones will be built on top of what we gain from here. So why do we have to teach leadership? The answer is because veterinarians, by our rules, are team leaders. You know, the medical doctors in the hospital, when any sick person, a patient, goes into the hospital, what's he going to do? He will tell people at home, I want to go and see the doctor. Isn't it? He's going to see the doctor. it's not only the doctor who works in the hospital or hospitals. We have a lot of other categories of workers, including the people they call that works in the medical records, who take who bring out the file because they will ask you to go and get your file. Those are the medical records professionals. They are professionals of their own right as well. Then there are cleaners who have to maintain the environment to be good enough for every other person to work, including themselves. People who are sick could vomit, could could defecate, could lose consciousness and urinate on bodies. So somebody has to be there, or a group of people, workers have to be there to make sure everything is good. Then we have the nursing station, where you would be expected to come in contact with the nurses, and they will take your parameters, vital signs. They will take your temperature, they will take your blood pressure, they will take your weight and your height, and any other documentation that will be recorded in the file that you have taken to them. And then they will now send the file to the doctor who is supposed to talk to you. The doctor will look through the file and invite you and do the doctor's job, which you are going to, you are also going to be doctors in your own rights. It will make all the clinical examinations and have a diagnosis, either tentative, which is oftentimes what he will do. And then if he wants a confirmation of that diagnosis, he will send the file or minute on the file, depending on what kind of system they are using these days. If it's a very highly digitized operation, right there and then he will type on his computer and the message will go to the laboratory, where the laboratory technicians or technologists will do their own part of the job, take blood samples, and then or fecal samples, urine samples, sputum, or whatever they require to make a diagnosis, or for the doctor to make a diagnosis. And then the doctor might at that stage still send your file and you to the pharmacy, depending when the outcome of the laboratory investigation is concluded. So he will ask you to be on some drugs based on his tentative diagnosis. You know, tentative diagnosis, for those of you who are in 200 levels or less than or younger than that, means diagnosis by the first contact on imagination, which is not exactly final, because before the diagnosis can be final, it has to go through the laboratory and other methods through which the doctor will have the confidence to pronounce a diagnosis. So you can see the various layers, the different types of work groups that exist in the hospital. But in all of this, the leader of that team, of the medical team, is the doctor. It's the medical doctor. That's why when you are going to the hospital, you say, I want to go and see the doctor. Doesn't make all the other sub-professionals less important, no. But there must be a leader. So veterinarians as doctors are leaders over a team that would include veterinary paraprofessionals, all sorts of support staff that we will have. And if it is a project, a livestock project, the veterinarian is also the leader, because if the health of any livestock project is in jeopardy, that project is finished. So veterinarians are by roles and naturally the leaders of the animal health services provision in many organizations. So that is how it is. Even in the building construction industry, you know, the architect have to design, they make a drawing of what he expects a building to look like. And then we have the structural engineers, we have the mechanical engineers, building engineers, and all other categories of workers. But the team leader for that group is the architect, because he drew up the design and he has to be able to interpret what he has designed. Quantity surveyors are supposed to put an estimation on the various costing materials that will be required. They're all important, but the architect takes the lead as the team leader. So that is the role of the veterinarian. That is why we need to teach you leadership, so that before you even leave school, you already begin to have that confidence that will make your competence marketable. Because if you lose your authority as a leader, the project will fail. So that is the reason why we have to teach interns leadership. So if that's an expo, I've explained enough. I will discuss these few basic principles on leadership that has been products of research works that others have done. But what is very, very, very controversial that have been in the marketplace over the years, from time immemorial, is that question of whether leaders are born or made. That was a subject of debate in those days, in our days in secondary school, and I'm sure even today that question may still be relevant, whether leaders are born or made. Some people will tell you leadership is by inheritance, but I can tell you through democracy that nothing like that exists again. I mean, nobody would accept to have anybody foisted on him without his permission for it today. They will prove the law. So that question remains, are leaders born or made? But a lot of workers have also, if you go on the internet, you will see a lot of answers to this kind of question, of views, of perspectives. I have seen on the internet by some researchers that 85% of people on earth are followers. I think that is expected, because everybody cannot lead. There must be a percentage of people who should lead others. So, but that percentage is high. 85% of people on earth are followers. 10% are leaders or creators or manipulators. In other words, we have that 10% spread out 3 groups of people, leaders or creators, those who make things happen. And then manipulators who find themselves, you know, deceiving people here and there. And then we have 5% who are observers. And that 5% who are observers are very dangerous people, according to some research works. Because in that position, they are able to create confusion to leaders because they are watching, very critical. And they are eager to condemn activities of the leaders. They will not raise up their hand. They will not go and contest election. But they will be analysts, very, very critical to see faults or find or manufacture faults in leaders. So they are a very dangerous group, 5% of them on earth. And then John Maxwell, in his own research work, found out that from the 10% of leaders, you see, or less than 10%, that 85% of that 10% of leaders are created by influence. That is, they find their way in there through association, through relationship, through popularity through, what they do. See? And then 10% of that 10% of that group become leaders by natural abilities. Maybe they are discoverers, and then they have achieved unusual, what is not common. So if they have displayed uncommon abilities, they will be spotted. If you do what is not usual, people will notice you. And then when there are reasons to have leaders to now lead a group, they will be called upon because they're already popular, they're already known one way or another because of what they have been able to naturally do. That natural ability includes your talents. You see, if you are looking at footballers today now and you see how widespread their popularity is, far and wide because of the publicity they have earned through their skills. If such people come into a group and they need to vote and they decide to show their interest, people are very likely to vote for them because they already know them. And then we also have, according to John Maxwell, 5% of that group of leadership come up by crisis. That is, they are provocative. They are, they are disruptive. That's the language. When there are issues, when there are troubles, there are some people who are very, very outstanding, very vocal. They are always there to want to speak for the crowd. You see, to look at students' demonstration, you will see them, perhaps they were never known before. But when the police, mobile police that used to disperse crowd comes, you will see them brave it out and speak forward, and then make explanations, want to talk, want to explain. So such people find themselves being tossed up for leadership roles, but just about 5% of them. So you can see that in this category, there is no mention of anybody being a born leader. And that is why all the children of the late Queen of England, who just departed, may never be known. Just by chance, okay, because of by birth, okay, at least one of the firstborn will have to take that role because of the nature of authority that is supposed to wield. But generally speaking, when leadership has been discussed, there is no leader that is born. People work their way through in all of these three categories. Now, what is leader-follower-ideal relationship? I gave you the answer to this during my last session with you last week, physical session. And I said in very simple language that you cannot be a good leader if you are not, or you are not, a good follower. So the ideal relationship is that of trust. The followers are supposed to trust their leaders. They're supposed to work with them because the leader oftentimes will be able to have a vision that might not be popular at all. Why the follower? Because of the limit of information available to him or her, might see those ideas as unworkable, might see those dreams or those visions as impossible, unattainable. That's normal. But the leader would have had some deep finding out, deep sleepless nights in thinking through what such vision or mission could achieve for the larger group that constitutes the followership. So the ideal relationship should actually be that of trust. I'm not saying here that We have not seen some leaders who have betrayed that trust. And that is why that language is dictionary anyway, betrayal. So we have had leaders who have betrayed the trust of followers. We all live in this same country. We've seen a lot of disappointment by those in whom we have entrusted our trust as leaders. In this country, we are all here. But the ideal relationship should be that of trust. When we give them our authority, we have surrendered our sovereignty to operate to them. So we should trust them, support them, and work with them. In other words, we should not even think of the betrayal aspect of it. We should just give it to them that they should do what is right. When they tell us a thing, we should believe. Nigerians are a very fantastic, wonderful group of followers in this country. A lot of things that have broken down the civil authorities in other countries have been accepted and taken for granted in this country, and life goes on. To give a Nigerian what he needs to feed himself and his family in a day, and he has a roof over his head by any method, he goes on, hoping that tomorrow will be better for him. You must have heard about the Arab Spring, the outbreak of crisis in some areas of some African, North African part of the continent, Algeria, Tunisia. It was an Arab Spring, they call it, that ran around that Sahel, that area, just because of the change in the price of bread and vegetables. And they went to the street and they chased away, I think, more than 4 of the presidents in those countries about 10, 15 years ago. They called it the Arab Spring. You can type it on your internet, Google it, you read more about that. But how many times have we had such, we don't even take it for, we just talk about it in Nigeria and that will be it. So the ideal relationship would have been the type Nigerians have for their leaders, total surrender. And that is the trust we should have. Then the styles of leadership and followership. The styles of leadership. First, I've just mentioned the styles of followership, which has to do with very docile one. We are a very docile group of followers in this country, which is not a bad thing. It only means we have trusted our leaders. We have an aggressive form of followership, just similar to what I've said now about the Arab Spring experience, where leaders are challenged. In every small thing they do, the followers would obstruct peaks. Now, the styles of leadership, let's look at the styles of leadership that we have. We have 4 different categories that are notable and talked about often in researches as transformational leadership, transactional leadership, charismatic authority leadership, and authoritarian leadership. I will take them one by one. There are things we know, but let me just let's just go through them again. But when I was doing my master in business administration, and this topic came up in personnel management, which was one of the courses we had to do, I remember not challenging, I remember adding my voice to a school of thought. I don't know whether it's popular or not, that I see a hybrid or multi-breed of a mixture of leadership that is not this very uniquely defined, that a leader can perform a combination of these styles unknowingly, depending on the trigger, depending on the environment or the situation that has presented itself. Well, the lecturer did not, as far as he was concerned, it was like I wanted to write a new theory, and because he said, well, this was what he was telling us. So, but I still have that that belief and conviction in my mind that a leader could be any of these rolled together depending on the need for them. But let's take them as presented and let's see how we go. A transformational leader focuses on individuals. He wants to transform the persons. He wants to deal with units and make the follower to become what he defines as good. And also look at the system, the social systems in the public space, and want to improve on them. He wants to make them to work better than he has met them. Don't be surprised to hear this language of wanting to make the system better than he met them. There are many leaders who want to sustain the status quo. They are afraid to take decisions. You have Nigerian governors. I think it was only Oshomole of Edo State who was able to carry through with finding the what's it called? The capital punishment of hanging two armed robbers who were condemned to die by hanging in the court of law in the last 10 or 15 years. No governor has been able to courageously sign to allow such criminals to go and die by hanging, even when courts have pronounced such a judgment. And that is why you have a lot of hardened criminals who are littering our courts and our correctional centers because of leaders who don't want to make a change or to improve the system they met on ground. But a transformational leader doesn't look back. If that's going to make the system work more socially, he will get them to be he will get those decisions to be taken without caring much the pushback which the society might initially have. And then they will begin to change people as they go on by the examples they will also give. So they are transformational. And it therefore makes them to also live by a standard that is high. Because if you want to transform me and you want to ask me to also sacrifice to make the system work, I should see you doing that. So we don't have that kind of leadership style in Nigeria by all our people that I've seen. All our leaders here they just give up and resign to let the people go. They just find their stories to tell. And people will continue to remain the same and they count their years and walk off the powers and still leave everything the way they met it. Then the transactional leadership style has a lot of supervision inside it. They transact, they work with you, they work with the followers, they put structures in place. I was in Dubai in a hotel close to the airport in 2010, I think. And myself and my wife, we came out for a stroll, and then we saw 3 vehicles with one of them in front with no siren, but it was just the headlamp was just coming off and on, off and on, off and on. You know, not like here, everywhere is brightly lit, so don't be surprised that you could even be driving without your headlamp being on, you won't have an accident. And then there was an uncompleted building structure going on, just about 3 buildings away from the hotel. So we were just about the place when these 3 vehicles drove past, and they drove into that uncompleted building. So now when they turned back, one of the people there who had to rush up to attend to the visitors that came now told me that that was the emir of Dubai Emirate. You know, that is the head of state of Dubai. With just 2 vehicles, himself was in the 3rd one. That was about 9:30, 10 in the night. That was transactional leadership. He came to that place to supervise, to find out the situation of that contract he awarded and the structure that was going on. He came himself for supervision. Not the kind of supervision that our president will tell us that as long as he has appointed you as a minister, he believes you should be able to do the job. You should go and do your supervision on your own. No, you can't get results with that kind of attitude. So the transactional leader believes in supervision. He gets directly involved and put the organization right by doing that. And everybody will sit right because they know that Oga may come anytime and personally look at what is going on. Not minding if he had already appointed people who should intermediate and become supervisors. Doesn't matter. But he will come and see. That was what the Emir of Dubai did in my presence. And I couldn't believe my ears. I mean, you know, there was no siren blowing, no serious air of authority. And he came and he saw the structure at that time, that hour, and he possibly could have been satisfied. But if by tomorrow or the following day, any of his subordinates that he appointed came up with his storytelling about that structure, of course, he would have just been laughing, or he would confirm or deny or dispute whatever report that could have been presented because he supervised correctly. That is transactional leadership. And with such leadership, performance is guaranteed because things will work well. It will not be a government of deception. A government of deception. We've seen some leaders in this country who have used very large billboards of what they call, what do they call it now? You know, like a prototype of a project that they want to build, that architects design. You know, they'll put all those small buildings, small human beings, they put grasses there. They call it today, it's just escaping me now. And then they will enlarge it on a billboard. It happened there in Delta State, I can tell you that. And they will tell you that it's a project they have concluded in advertisement in the newspapers. Meanwhile, nothing is on ground. So those are not transactional. So we have a fantastic leadership style in the transactional leadership. Then the charismatic authority leadership, that's the one that inspires people, because this is somebody who is charismatic. You know, by the way, by the kind of attitude he has used or he has exhibits, people like him. He has a personality. He's an influencer. So even if he was not ready to work, you can see the kind of, I don't want to be political here because I'm not in any of these political parties. You can see the obedient movement today now. Even if Obi becomes a president, even if he never wanted to be active before. But the kind of influence and trust people have trusted on him now will not make him fail, because he will be thinking seriously about the kind of personality that he has already wielded in the public space. And you'll be remembering that. So that is charisma. He's already having the charismatic authority. People, when Buhari was coming to, he enjoyed it. Buhari had the kind of blind loyalty that people never even, in all of the campaigns he went for, he hardly spoke for 5 minutes. People would hang on trees and clap and make noise, and just fighting Buhari alone was sufficient for them to go and die. And you know, that personality was there. That charisma was there. So they have that personal skills to convert. That is, they are able to use that for those. In Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew had that kind of charisma and that kind of authority, you know, based on the way people saw him. And he was able to use it to advantage. But some people have used that charisma negatively. When Buhari came in, the first 1 month after he was sworn in, is it NEPA now, or whatever they call them now, the light was not Nigeria again. People were afraid and people sat right. People were not ready to steal. People wanted to do their jobs. But when it was looking like this charisma was not, you know, people call it body language, was not speaking the kind of language that could give us the kind of fear we should have, people relaxed. Those who are stealing started stealing. So that is a style of leadership that some people could have converted, or some people have been converting to a very good style. And then, of course, we have the final one here, that is the authoritarian leadership, where this is the boss. The guy is a bulldozer. He operates by command, and he doesn't care how you feel. He cares less about the followers. He's a dictator. He wants to get things done. It could be wrong. You can see what is going on in Russia today. Most of the commanders who are in battleground or battlefield in Ukraine are not happy to be there. But the authoritarian leader, their dictator, has told them to go and fight and die. They can't turn back. Possibly, the state might be able to achieve the objective of the leader in what he believed in, but it is not necessarily because the public believes in that. So it's an authoritarian leadership style where he goes ahead, and yeah, your guys just asking whether we can. I will give you the presentation. I'll give it to you. You have the presentation, but take your notes anyway. So that's another style. But like I said, in my own view, I believe that you can have a good leadership that marries a combination of these styles, depending on the situation before the leader. But in terms of training, these are the various descriptions of the leadership styles that we have. Now, let me take these little, let me plug them out little by little, what I believe leaders must be. Leaders must be ready to speak their minds always. What do I mean? A leader must not be afraid to talk, because the followers, in the category of followers, we have those who are referred to as bootlickers, eye service, those who pretend they hate you, but they will do everything to make you look like they like you. Those ones will not speak truth to power. So if you now have a leader or leaders who don't speak their minds, then you can see that the state is finished or the organization is gone, because you need leaders must speak. Babangida, when he was military president in this country, was one leader who used to do that. And he would tell you that a bad decision remain a decision. And that's truth. In management, that is truth. A bad decision is a decision. A bad decision is better than no decision. Because where there is no decision, you don't even know how to classify. But where there is a bad decision, you can begin to look at how to modify that decision for the benefit of the community or for the benefit of the organization. So sometimes, relating it to veterinary medicine now, it may not be easy to tell your clients about your constraints on certain matters. A leader must be confident to speak out, but always remember too that you must think before you speak. Because as a leader, if you don't think through your thoughts very well, and you make pronouncements that are unworkable, you will bear the consequences. So, like I said here, because there are clients are supposed to be king, customers are kings. That's what they say in commerce. And then sometimes we lose more if we are not bold to speak our minds. And then you would have rendered a service that will not yield profit. You see? I will give an example of what happened to me a long time ago when the governor of Rivers State there was one commissioner of police, Oyakilome, who happened to be from my town. My practice was still in Ilorin at that time. That was 1987, I think. I was a young practitioner then. So the commissioner of police in in Kwara State there was Joseph Iyamabo, also from my town. And of course, because I was in Ilorin, I was one of those who hosted him and welcomed him when he was posted to be a commissioner of police in Kwara State. So by that connection, he introduced me to the governor of Rivers, though a commissioner of police, but he was the military governor of Rivers State that period, 1985, 86, sorry, 86, 87 period. So the governor, that is Yakilo Meya, he had a poultry farm in our town. Now, because I was a vet and I'm a vet and I was introduced to him, he now requested me to supply him dill chicks, the renewal dill chicks, you know, for the farm back at home. 5,000 birds. That was a big deal. I was happy to have a connection with a governor who could as well in future do more things for me. So I didn't tell him the constraints I had that, yes, I was in Ilorin, far away. I did not have a delivery vehicle that would be air conditioned to supply chicks in far away Edo State. I didn't tell him that. I felt it was going to be too cheap of me to begin to complain. There was in Friday farms. That was for those who are Ilorin related people. I think that some of you are from the north of Ilorin. There was Friday farms. I was a consultant to that farm. It was owned by a retired Inspector General of Police, Mr. Sunday Adewus. So I was consultant to the farm. So I had to quickly go to the farm, and I got a location of birds. They had about 100,000 caged layers at that time. So that was a big deal. And I got these 5,000 birds. Punishing myself, chartered 3 vehicles from Ilorin all the way to those states with all the Nigerian weather. And by the time the birds, I didn't go, one of my staff went with them. By the time they got there, there was no GSM or anything those days. What I had later the following day was that 4,500 of those birds died before they got there. They died because of heat stress on the way. Now I had to confront the carelessness of not speaking my mind by now facing the governor through the commissioner of police, who was my own link, that this was a bad story I got. And the governor, despite all the wealth he had, I tell you, did not forgive me. He did not pardon me in any way. Boldly told me that he did not order for dead birds and I should replace the beds. And despite my complaint of use of a vehicle that was not air conditioned, he asked that if I had asked him, he would have made an arrangement to allow the governor in the Kwara State to supply me with whatever I needed. To cut a long story short, a month later, I was now to make a replacement. And I told him, a night before the delivery, he asked me what I needed. I told him I needed a vehicle that can be air conditioned to take the birds all the way. He called the governor of Kwara State, who sent a dispatch rider to me 2 days or 3 days before the day. The guy came with that and they invited me over to the government house in Kwara State. And they asked me to point to the kind of vehicle I wanted. I saw the various vehicles that are air conditioned, buses, and I pointed to an 18-seater bus, fully air conditioned. The vehicle was with me overnight of the day of delivery and took all the birds, 5,000 new replacement birds, dill chicks, and no single bird died all the way to Edo State. So that's a lesson of life. Don't be shy of your clients, of what they will say. Tell them what is in your heart as a professional. If they are going to run away and not come back, it doesn't matter. Show that leadership by speaking your heart. If he likes to pay, no problem. If he doesn't want to pay, no problem. Just have that kind of mindset that you must be the leader that should speak your mind all the time. Even among the followers, your relationship, it's not going to be smooth sailing all the way. There is no perfect workplace. There is no perfect workplace. Depending on the situation, you may get into a heated argument with your followers and develop misunderstandings. But what you must do as the leader is to ensure that you rectify any issue that brews by communicating truthfully. Don't tell lies, because if you tell a lie to your follower and you are caught in that, your authority is gone. You see? So a confrontation may be difficult, but setting aside the time to talk about it and settle matters in a calm manner will do wonders for your relationship with your followers. Keep that in your mind. Honesty is a virtue that leaders must have. You must be honest. If you're not honest as a leader, you are just not there. Maybe in your clinic, somebody comes to your clinic and you overpays. And instead of refunding the money immediately, you tell your secretary that I keep it there. That's our bonus. That secretary will now know that you are a thief yourself. So if he's going to steal from you or steal from the practice, he will have the confidence to do so, he or she. You have that confidence to do so because you have not given an example of honesty. In my practice, that cannot happen. There is no client that will overpay, and many have done several times with thousands of naira difference between what they. There was somebody who out of 109,000 naira, 109,000 once mistakenly paid 190,000 into our account. And my attention was called to it. Quick, we called and apologized. You know, these politicians at times, they don't even know what they don't even care about that. They didn't even know he paid such money. And we returned the money to the person. So honesty is a virtue, and it's a great leadership virtue for that matter. So speaking honestly does not always ensure a positive outcome. Sometimes people will not buy into it. They won't like it. I mean, like, you know, somebody will tell you that that's supposed to be bonus for you or something. No, don't believe that. So just do what is right, be honest. Sorry. Sorry about that disruption. NEPA took light, but my inverter solar took over, and then it was from television. So a good leader must keep setting examples. Not just examples, but good examples. So a good leader must actually keep setting good examples. See, give respect to everyone and be a good receptor of ideas. You must be a good listener. You must be able to allow people to express themselves and share the ideas they have, because it is those ideas are what you need to also develop the organization. And you must be kind in your interactions. And like I said just now, you must be quick in mending any communication issue. If there are misunderstanding between you and the followers, you must be very quick in settling them. Don't carry them. I can't imagine a leader keeping malice with followers. And it happens. We've had some leaders who bottle up their pains and start keeping malice with their workers. I mean, that should not be a style that should be emulated at all. A good leader with visions and dreams will take the followers to greatness. That language, greatness. Because what you want, a leader is already great by virtue of being singled out to lead others. But you need to actually cultivate people among your followers, if not all of them, to also attain that greatness. That's the joy of leadership. A leader who don't have people who are great as followers have not started, has not achieved the objectives of leadership, because that is the way it's supposed to be. greatness, that language. So I'm going to present to you 2 slides as case studies, which you will take away, and they will form part of the assignment or homework which you will do, and you will submit them at the next class. So the next 2 slides are voices of 5 Nigerian veterinary leaders that will motivate you. I hope the video will work. So watch them carefully. I want you to transcribe the messages that you hear. Whatever you can write is okay. I won't tell you 200 words, 500 words, but whoever writes more will earn more marks for me. But I want you to discuss the lessons that you learn on them before the next class. So I will play the video now.
I am Professor Garba Hamidu Sharubutu. I'm currently the Acting Executive Secretary of the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria.
Is the volume okay?
I'm a veterinary doctor, a professor of veterinary medicine with 16 years experience.
My name is Dr. GANI ENAHORO. I have been in private practice ever since 1985, and I have been a core veterinarian.
I am Dr. Bala Mohammed. I'm a veterinary surgeon, a fellow of the College of Vet Surgeons, the director of Blue Blood Vet and Livestock Management Services Limited, Nigeria.
My name is Aisha Abubakar, Commissioner of Police in charge of First Animal Branch. I could remember early in the morning at about 6 a.m. I woke up. Then there was landline, and then my phone in the house rang, and I picked up. And the DG, the head of state, called me and said, "Ma, good morning, ma. They are looking for you. They say the lion has escaped." You know, that kind of lion escaped inside the villa. But it happens there in now, but we are able to make sure that it went back unharmed. It didn't harm anybody, and it didn't harm itself. But I tell you, that was one of the most serious, challenging moments in our life. It's a good experience.
I recall a day, because we were consultants to most of the oil and gas institutions in this area in Delta State. There was a particular day when one of the dogs in these locations had a snake bite. And they called me as their consulting veterinarian that they saw the snake. And the handler said he saw the snake. And I told them that the earlier we begin to intervene, then we could save the lives of these dogs that were imported from Europe, very expensive dogs, half trained in Europe, and then now being used here. And the only way to reach me was to send a chopper, an helicopter from the field to come to Warri to pick me within the hour of bite. The chopper came down to Warri, and then they needed to raise a security vehicle that had all the siren blaring to rush to Nairobi here to pick me in good time to catch up with the pilot who was waiting for me, and a solo passenger that was myself, taken to the field to go and treat a dog. That was a glorious moment for the profession.
I was a member of the National Rinderpest Task Force that participated in eradicating rinderpests, in Nigeria and globally. I think that, to me, is a big achievement, having the privilege, of being part of the story, the people that supported the eradication of rinderpests.
I was instrumental to introducing the type of internship that you see with VetWorld, with what Dr. Bala Mohammed is doing and the rest. Any student that comes to me on graduation to say he wants to do something after NYSC, I always introduce them to big time people. I either take them to Tunji Nasir, I take them to Dr. Bala or to Dan and tell them, train these people. So it became a postal address for them. And today, I think the issue of internship is growing gradually. Yes, there is a clamor for it, but I always advise that we should tread very, very soon.
That was awesome. You can see the dexterity given in this profession. Animal identification, capturing the lion, all the disease eradication. To be a leader that none of us can say no to. Isn't it a duty to be a veterinarian?
Well, was the voice clear enough on your side? I need to know if the voice was good.
Yes, the voice is good.
Oh, okay. That's right. Did you enjoy the video?
Okay, the voice was clear for the first videos, but the last speaker was not audible enough.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, that's all right. Let's take the second video now.
I am Professor Garba Hamidu Sharbutu. I'm currently the Acting Executive Secretary of the Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria. I'm a veterinary doctor, a professor of veterinary medicine with 16 years experience.
My name is Dr. GANI ENAHORO. I have been in private practice ever since 1985, and I have been a core veterinarian.
I am Untitled. I'm a veterinary surgeon, a fellow of the College of Vet Surgeon, the director, Blue Blood Vet, and Livestock Management Services Limited in Nigeria.
My name is Aisha Abubakar, Commissioner of Police in charge of First Animal Branch. I could remember early in the morning at about 6 a.m. I woke up, then there was landline, and then my phone in the house rang, and I picked up. And the VG, the head of state government said, "Ma, good morning, ma. They are looking for you. They say the lion has escaped." You know, that can be horrible. Lion escaping inside the villa, but it happens there in now, but we are able to make sure that it went back unharmed. It didn't harm anybody, and it didn't harm itself. But I tell you, that was one of the most serious, challenging moments in our life. But it's a good experience.
I recall a day, because we were consultants to most of the oil and gas institutions in this area in Delta State. There was a particular day when one of the ducks in these locations had a snake bite. And they called me as their consulting veterinarian that they saw the snake. And the handler said, saw the snake. And I told them that the earlier we begin to intervene, then we could save the lives of these dogs that were imported from Europe, very expensive dogs, half trained in Europe, and then now being used here. And the only way to reach me was to send a chopper, an helicopter from the field to come to Warri to pick me within the hour of bite. The chopper came down to Warri, and then they needed to raise a security vehicle that had all the siren blaring to rush to Garovet here to pick me in good time to catch up with the pilot who was waiting for me, and a solo passenger that was myself, taken to the field to go and treat a dog. That was a glorious moment for the profession.
I was a member of the National Rinderpest Task Force that participated in eradicating rinderpests, you know, in Nigeria and globally. I think that, to me, is a big achievement, having the privilege, you know, of being part of the story, you know, the people that supported the eradication of rinderpests.
I was instrumental to introducing the type of internship that you see with VetWall, with what Dr. Bala Mohammed is doing and the rest. Any student that comes to me on graduation to say he wants to do something after NYSC, I always introduce them to big time people. I either take them to Tunji Nasir, I take them to Dr. Bala or to Dan and tell them, train these people. So it became a postal address for them. And today, I think the issue of internship is growing gradually. Yes, there is a clamor for it, But I always advise that we should tread very, very soon.
That was awesome. Let's see dexterity. Champion in this profession. Animal identification. Capital denial. All the disease eradication. To be a leader, none of us can say no to. This is the duty.
So, Garba,
Now, what's going on?
Hamid Sharubutu, I'm currently the acting executive secretary of Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria.
Okay. Sorry, the video was repeating itself. I don't know why. That was a documentary that was projected to the audience during the annual National Congress of the NVMA in 2019 at Lokoja. I'm sure you have listened very carefully. You could hear our leaders talk about exhibiting of excellence. That was what Sharubutu said. Sharubutu was the past president of NVMA and currently the executive secretary of the Agricultural Agri-Research Council. I talked about the positive legacies where we are no more. Aisha talked about the veterinary practice attaining the right attention, and Bala talked about helping others without payback. These are great. Listen to this one too.
Exhibit excellence is greatness. And you exhibit excellence only when you keep to the norms of the game, when you master your game, and when you are available to people for them to tap on. That is greatness.
To me, my greatest job is to have an army of veterinarians who would look to me, and point to me to have been their mentor. Because of what I did, what I said, I've made them to be successful veterinarians. That to me is greatness.
Greatness is, for me, veterinarians, that's my view. It's when we see the veterinary practice as taking its rightful position and giving the right attention and saying we have reached greatness.
When you are able to do for somebody who will never do for you, you can also earn something out of that aspect. Those are things that I consider greatness.
Dear colleagues, Dr. Gansa, to the Congress. It's going to be creative. There's going to be a lot of networking.
Enjoy the conference.
Yeah, was this better off?
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's good. I don't know why these videos are repeating themselves. Let me see. We'll be concluding in another few minutes. I actually have another session I didn't know we had before. Okay, so please, you have to read more on leadership. The next lecture will continue also on leadership, and then maybe the third contact with you people would happily be rounding up with career talks, as it has to do with veterinary profession directly. And this is the end of the lecture. I'm very happy to have spoken to you. And please, you can ask your questions right now. So this is the end of the lecture. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Before I do that, do you have questions for him? Okay, you have a question. So we'll take the question.
Thank you very much for this insightful lecture. So my question is, I want to know, are there like examples of leaders that like encompasses all four styles of leadership? Like we have people that we can point to and then take inspiration from them that they encompass all four styles of leadership.
And so we take all the questions then you answer them, sir.
So I want to ask, there are situations where some leaders have some specific kind of qualities. Those qualities may be the right one, maybe transformational, but that's not what the people in that area need at that time. So are we saying now that they are not capable to be leaders? Like I see in Nigeria that maybe with the way people are unmannered, maybe we'll be leading something like a dictatorship, a dictatorship kind of leadership. Whereas if we're having transformational leaders, though there are people that care about people, but that might not really work in that situation. So can we say that those leaders are unfit for the environment?
Okay. All right. So my own question, like for the authoritarian leader now that is based on command, dictatorship, and everything. So we know that for leadership to be attained, you should be able to reach the goals and vision. So like you, as you talk this kind of leadership, the authoritarian leadership, and he's able to achieve this goal. Do you find this kind of leadership valid enough? Even if it's not like a remaining three-star, but he has to reach it. Do you like approve this kind of leadership? So far the goals and the dreams are paid.
Any other question? Okay, so over to you. Those are all the questions.
More questions?
That's all the questions for today, sir.
Okay, let me regret that I wasn't hearing very clearly. The audio was not good here. So maybe what we'll do, I think we have a platform already, isn't it?
Yes.
I think there's a WhatsApp platform already.
Yes, sir.
So you can post those questions on that platform. And even more questions for those who are not able to compose their questions now. And then I will take them in details. Okay?
That'll be fine, sir.
Okay. So I'm proud of you all. And I would like to once again request you to be very good ambassadors of your schools and then be our greater tomorrow by enjoying every facet of this course and training. Benefit it seriously so that you can impact on the community of veterinarians in future. If there are things that you need to also ask us to do for you, do not hesitate, be bold to speak out, like I said, because you are all leaders, okay? So I have another meeting right now, so I will be exiting, and then I will meet you people up on the platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, all right. My pleasure.
My life. Finish.